We did a survey and found that if we wanted to have a graphic designer create a relatively complex image, it would cost about $150 in human labor. We can ask a neural net to create a similar image, and after it generates a few images, getting a satisfactory one costs all in about 8 cents. And we expect that cost to continue to decline. When we think about a use case like self-driving, data is really important. A company like Tesla, in our opinion, is in an advantaged position in part because of the data that they've acquired. They have millions of cars on the road driving billions of miles, and they're using those cars to continually collect more data that improves their full self-driving capability. For example, if a driver presses a brake while autopilot is engaged, Tesla marks that as an error on the part of the AI. They can then use that example to continually train the model and further improve it.
If you own Tesla stock, or you don't own Tesla stock, you should definitely watch this video about AI, especially if you're under the delusion that Tesla isn't an AI company, or you haven't taken the time to understand the implications of the exponential increase in the capabilities of artificial intelligence, which out of nowhere is disrupting and transforming industry after industry after industry. We have finally reached a tipping point. In the last 12 months, we have seen an absolutely insane surge in the rate of AI progress. And just in case you've forgotten already, Tesla's full self-driving technology is AI, and that will also be powering their humanoid robots. In this video, Ark Invest discussed the truly profound implications of artificial intelligence. Don't sleep on it. For the record, I've discussed AI and the crazy progress, including with language-based models fairly recently over on Patreon. If you're not a member, you can join with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment.
Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Overview of Big Ideas. I'm Will Summerlin. I co-lead venture investing and also cover AI on the research team at Ark.
And my name is Frank Downing. I'm the Director of Research for Ark's Next Generation Internet theme.
So this was clearly an exciting year in AI, and this presentation will cover 3 topics primarily. The first is generative AI. The second are cost declines and our forward expectations for cost declines through 2030. And third is the impact of AI on the productivity of knowledge workers. So starting with generative AI. Generative AI has come a really long ways in the last few years. If you go back to just a few years ago and asked a neural net to produce an image of, say, a monkey on the moon, the image that was produced would be rather terrible. It would be grainy and it would probably not look like a monkey on the moon. But in the last few years, we've seen a lot of architectural advancements in AI, transformers being one great example. And importantly, the cost to train large AI models has continued to decline at a very rapid rate. And that's allowed organizations like OpenAI to train much larger models that are much more performant and capable. We've seen this in the image space. Look at DALL-E 2, for example. In this presentation, we give an example of a prompt asking to create a picture of an astronaut riding a horse. And you can see here the image that was generated by the neural network. You can actually use these models yourself. You can go to DALL-E 2 or many platforms that allow you to train or use models like Stable Diffusion. But we've also seen generative models beyond images. For example, Meta released a make a video model where you can provide a text prompt, and from that text prompt, the neural net will actually generate a video. So really incredible capabilities. We're also seeing innovations on the 3D front and the audio front. And we expect this pace to continue for the next few years. While these models are really interesting and cool and fun to show your friends, they're actually impacting the productivity of knowledge workers already. In the case of coding, we've seen AI coding assistants like GitHub Copilot more than doubling the productivity of software engineers when it comes to coding tasks. And so these models are abstracting away some of the more redundant tasks that would be done by software engineers, making them more productive.
If you haven't been keeping tabs on the insane progress of Stable Diffusion, image generation, what's happening with AI assistants, especially for those writing code, you're really missing a trick. Seismic disruption is already underway. As we heard, generative AI producing images just a year or two ago, absolute horse shit. I mean, cool party trick, but horse shit. We've gone from producing horse shit images now to stunning artwork, photorealistic images of things that have never existed, including human faces. And AI assistants now can help developers save a huge amount of time reducing and removing menial tasks, allowing them to focus on higher value productivity. This isn't where the story ends. AI's capabilities will continue to increase over time, and eventually, task after task, industry after industry, whether it's creativity, analysis, you name it, AI's capabilities will exceed humans on everything. We're not there yet, but it's going to happen. I'm already using language-based AI to save myself a lot of time, to manage a lot of my social life, to help with research. Why hire an executive assistant when a language-based AI can do most of the same work instantly and almost for free. From the point of view of a Tesla stock investor, I really want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. If you've been paying attention, you will be stunned, shocked, and maybe even a little scared at the rate of AI progress, especially when it comes to language models and the generation of images and video via Stable Diffusion. If you were to plot the progress, it would look fairly steady and incremental, then out of nowhere, full hockey stick, going completely vertical in the last 12 months. This is what can happen to large AI models. Once they have a large enough data set, they've been refined enough, capabilities out of nowhere can go from terrible to incredible. Can you join the dots? Tesla's full self-driving software today, you can't go to sleep and arrive safely at your destination. You still need to be monitoring constantly. Many experts don't think we'll solve autonomy anytime this decade. Some think never. But Tesla now has a fleet of close to 4 million vehicles collecting data to train their AI to get better. You see where I'm going with this? In short, I think the capabilities of Tesla's full self-driving software are going to surprise people in the coming months and quarters, and that's putting it lightly. If you've been paying attention to the progress of AI over the last 12 or so months, and including what Tesla's been saying about their own software, you'll recall Tesla disclosing the fact that breakthroughs in language-based AI allowed Tesla to massively improve their autonomous software. I'm not kidding. One more time. AI progress in language has allowed Tesla to dramatically improve the capabilities of their full self-driving software. This matters. It's almost a case of a rising tide lifts all boats, or potentially drives all cars in the near future.
We've also seen examples on the design front. We did a survey and found that if we wanted to have a graphic designer create a relatively complex image, it would cost about $150 in human labor. We can ask a neural net to create a similar image, and after it generates a few images, getting a satisfactory one costs all in about 8 cents. And we expect that cost to continue to decline.
Well, rest in fucking peace, graphic designers. I hate to say it, but facts don't care about your feelings. If your job is to design, is to create user interfaces, illustrations, corporate identities, you name it, the entire design industry is about to be flipped on its head. The smartest among designers will integrate AI and utilize AI to improve their output, their capacity, and what they can deliver to clients, at least while that's still feasible. But even so, we're about to see this industry completely and utterly upended. Look on screen now. Think about this for a moment, okay? As I mentioned earlier, generative AI-based images previously, 12 months ago, looked like horse shit. They're now stunning. This is really important. The cost for a human, a very low-paid designer, I'm not going to lie, 5 hours, $150 to create an illustration, say, of an astronaut on the moon. AI, generative AI. $150, 8 cents. 5 hours, less than a minute. And again, everything we're discussing in today's video applies directly to what's happening at Tesla. They're an AI company. It's important to be able to look at the progress of AI in one particular domain, image generation, and understand that this level of progress, disruption, isn't going to be constrained to that one domain. Field after field, area after area, AI is going to disrupt massively. I'm personally surprised at the progress of AI, especially when it comes to generative images. I think we're only a few years away, maybe not even that, before anyone, a pleb like myself, can give a prompt to an AI to create a film, a movie, describe the characters, scene, setting, plot, key outline, whatever, or maybe have ChatGPT write the entire script, prompt it, and in almost real time, for almost no cost, generate a live action film, or in whatever style you want. You want it to look like Toy Story, or want it to look like it's 3D animated? Great, you can do that as well. Want it to look like it's got real human actors? Great, you can do that as well. Want to feature actual real human actors, their identities? Well, aside from the whole copyright and who owns what kind of deal, that will be possible as well. What do you think this does to the whole fucking film industry? And again, the first iterations of this aren't going to be great, but we've seen insane progress with image generation. The exact same thing's going to happen with video generation, with movies, music, content, art, illustration, everywhere. No human endeavor is safe.
And so, in the case of image models, we've seen a cost decline from $150 in unassisted human labor down to 8 cents with generative AI. Now, to talk about cost declines, I'll hand it over to Frank.
Thanks, Will. You gave a great example of cost declines as applied to image generation. But if we step back and look at large language models as a whole, we're always looking at cost declines to try and understand how markets are going to evolve around innovative technologies. And AI is a great example of a technology that is very compute intensive and thus very expensive to train and run inference on these large models right now. And one of the things we've been really shocked by is the cost declines that we're seeing already with AI just in a short-term time horizon. So if you look at GPT-3, which is OpenAI's model that powers chatbots like ChatGPT. That original base model cost $4.6 million to train in 2020. And we've already seen a company called Mosaic ML demonstrate that they can train a model to similar levels of performance for just $450,000 in 2022, just 2 years later. And so that comes to about a 70% annualized cost decline. And if you compare this to what we put in our Big Ideas presentation last year, where we thought costs were declining at about 60% per year, that would have been a $740,000 training cost. So this is one case where the actual numbers that we're seeing are outpacing our original cost decline forecast from last year.
Oh, hi. It's me again, the guy who sees everything through Tesla-colored glasses. I just wanted to mention for the people that haven't quite joined the dot there, when we're referring to AI training costs plummeting, we just saw in the span of 2 years a 10x decrease in the cost to train AI models, language-based models. Did you know that Tesla trains their own AI models, the ones that drive their vehicles, at least kind of drive their vehicles, and their training costs are plummeting. Cost to improve capabilities, plummeting. At the same time, capabilities are improving exponentially. Those two trends will continue, and the implications are profound. And you know what really matters in terms of training AI models? Data. So if there are any companies, any organizations out there who just so happen to have exclusive access to a significant amount of data that no other company on earth attempting to solve the same problem has access to, I don't know, like just hypothetically imagine there was a company with around 4 million data collection centers rolling around roads today training their self-driving software, and no other companies had the data because they didn't have the fleet. If such a company had an unassailable data advantage, training costs are plummeting, guess what happens? They win. Unfortunately, I don't think there are any companies like that. Otherwise, I'd probably own their stock, especially around the whole solving autonomy thing. Because, if there was a company that already clearly had an unassailable lead in terms of data, and data is how this stuff gets better, and this stuff's getting better at an exponentially increasing rate, and the cost to make this stuff better is plummeting, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to finish that thought. I'm sure you can figure it out yourselves.
What we like to do to understand where these training efficiencies are coming from is split out hardware cost declines and software cost declines. On the hardware side, we see costs declining at 57% per year. So this is through a variety of innovations, not just Moore's Law, but building on top of adding more transistors on a chip by adding more high-speed memory and increasing the number of what are called tensor cores on a chip. These are compute cores designed specifically for training AI models that allow, over time, these chip architects to build more and more efficient chips specifically tailored for the task of AI training.
For some strange reason, the word dojo is coming to mind. I'm not sure why.
On the software side, we're seeing similar advancements. As AI is becoming more prolific and there's more and more research being poured into it, there's various algorithmic tricks and efficiencies that AI researchers are coming up with that have shown to decline costs at 47% independent of the compute. And when you combine these two forces that are moving in parallel, you get this 70% cost decline that we think, based on our research, could sustain for the next 10 years through 2030 and beyond. So these cost declines, which we think will open up a broad market for AI, they beg the question, what will we do with this cheaper compute? We won't just be able to run more inferences, but we'll be able to train larger models. If you look at GPT-3, which is already a large model at 170 billion parameters, there's a question of how big models will get in the future and what data will be needed to train those models. DeepMind, an AI unit inside of Google, published a paper regarding a model they created called Chinchilla in the beginning of last year that seeks to come up with a scaling function for how large models can get based on the amount of training data that we can feed them. And based on our estimates, the largest model they put forth in that paper is a hypothetical 10 trillion parameter model. That's 57 times more parameters than the GPT-3 model and 720 times more tokens as this largest kind of theoretical model that they put forth. If you overlay our cost declines on that, we think that model, which is orders of magnitude larger than GPT-3, could be trained for just $600,000 by 2030. So that's just 13% of the cost to train GPT-3. Now, the trick there is 216 trillion tokens of training data. So that's larger than the total size of Wikipedia, for example. There's going to need to be a lot of language data generated to feed models once we get training capacity this large. I think that brings about an interesting question in terms of what is most important with getting an edge in AI training that's particularly related to proprietary data advantages. And I'll turn it back to Will to talk a little bit more about that.
As Frank mentioned, we believe proprietary data is really important.
Proprietary data, that magic word. That's what I was referring to previously when I was discussing Tesla's data regarding full self-driving. It's Tesla's data. No one else can use it. They don't have access. That is what proprietary data is. So keep that in mind as we hear more about the profound implications of having proprietary data when it comes to training large AI models.
Both in terms of training a model, but also in terms of fine-tuning and continually improving a model. When we think about a use case like self-driving, data is really important. A company like Tesla, in our opinion, is in an advantaged position in part because of the data that they've acquired. They have millions of cars on the road driving billions of miles, and they're using those cars to continually collect more data that improves their full self-driving capability. For example, if a driver presses a brake while autopilot is engaged, Tesla marks that as an error on the part of the AI. They can then use that example to continually train the model and further improve it.
Well, fancy that. Turns out Ark Invest have used that very example, Tesla's proprietary data when it comes to their full self-driving software. You guys might have heard me use the word, approximately 420 quintillion times. Tesla has an unassailable lead when it comes to solving autonomy. Why do I use the term unassailable? Because words matter and their lead is literally unassailable. No one is catching up. They have too much data. They have too many vehicles on roads collecting more data. No one else has the fleet. No one can catch up, unless of course there's a magic button I'm unaware of that a company could press and instantly deploy their own fleet of over 4 million vehicles collecting data, and then press the button again, add another 4 million for good measure because they've got to catch up for all the years of data they haven't been collecting. This is very important. This is why I want to claw my eyeballs out when I see autonomy leaderboards with Tesla dead-ass last instead of first. Of course, Tesla hasn't yet fully solved autonomy, so we'll just have to wait and see. But you better fucking believe I'm going to be here for the victory lap when the time comes.
We believe data advantages in this feedback loop exist in other verticals as well. For example, in software development, AI coding assistants are continually improving based on the feedback they're getting from usage. So a company like Replit that has millions of software engineers on their platform and is continually improving their AI models, we think will be in an advantaged position moving forward. When we think about the impact of cost declines on model performance, we look at a variety of applications of AI, one of which is AI coding assistants. As we mentioned earlier, AI coding assistants are already doubling the productivity of many software engineers. And when we take that 70% cost decline and model forward performance expectations, we think that the models will be performant enough to more than 10x the productivity of software engineers by 2030. When we talk to researchers who are building these models, or Amjad, who's the founder and CEO of Replit, they actually think that a 10x uplift in productivity may be too conservative. But based on our cost declines, we are confident in our base case of 10x.
To give another example of how we think cost declines will unlock new markets, I think it's important to touch on ChatGPT and similar sophisticated AI chatbots. So ChatGPT has exploded in popularity, reaching over 1 million users in just its first 5 days. And part of the reason why is because you're able to ask in very natural dialogue a wide range of questions that the AI can answer based on the corpus of public internet data that it's trained on. To give a sense of current performance, and this is changing rapidly as kind of new iterations of these chatbots are released, ChatGPT, when launched, could already answer SAT questions at around the national average, which is pretty incredible. And that's only getting better as more training data is fed into these models and it gets feedback from real use. And this is already being productized and launched by Microsoft, and Google has a competing product coming to market as well. The question here, the interesting dynamic is doing this inference on these large language models is relatively expensive. So we've estimated the cost of one query on ChatGPT at about 1 penny. It may not sound like much, but when you compare it to the 8.5 billion searches per day on Google, costs add up very quickly. So if you were looking at doing about 1 billion inferences per day, right now we think that would cost about $10 million per day, and that's not even the total scale of Google. But by 2030, using our cost declines, we think that will come down to about $650. So a much more reasonable number that will allow these chatbots to be deployed at scale that we think is going to happen quite quickly.
So I just want to make sure everyone's paying attention. On screen now, Ark's estimates for the cost per billion inferences, 2022, $10 million, declining to $650, not $1,000, just $650, from $10 million to $650 by 2030. This is a disruption, the scale of which we have never seen before.
When we think about the impact of AI on knowledge worker productivity, In our base case, we believe AI will increase the productivity of knowledge workers by more than fourfold by 2030. In our base case, that would result in companies spending about $14 trillion a year on AI software. And we believe that could create more than $90 trillion in enterprise value. In our bull case, at 100% adoption rate, we think companies could spend $41 trillion on AI software to increase labor productivity by more than $200 trillion. That's compared to the $32 trillion they currently spend on knowledge worker salaries today. So we believe that AI could actually break consensus GDP estimates, given the potential for knowledge worker productivity.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. One of these things that people just don't seem to get. One of the more common and embarrassing responses I see when people have a look at my Tesla valuation model, they look at some of the different scenarios. Of course, none of the scenarios are predictions. They might look at the base case and go, hang on a minute, the market cap in your base case, let me compare that to the world GDP. Bro, you're so fucking dumb. Do you realize that the GDP of the entire world's only this much, but Tesla's market cap would be this? Oh, are you dumb? This has also come up when discussing the implications of Tesla's humanoid robot, which don't meaningfully affect my Tesla valuation model this decade, but they sure do next decade, although I don't share next decade publicly. Instead of thinking, mistake number one, people immediately respond emotionally. But bro, world GDP is only this much. That's impossible, bro. Are you f***ing serious, bro? You guys recall Elon Musk when discussing and thinking out loud about the Tesla humanoid robot, wondering, is there actually a limit to the size of the global economy? This is what he was getting at. You see this? This is world GDP over the last 2 millennia. Notice something? Out of almost nowhere, world GDP has gone vertical. What happened? Technology. Exponentially improving technology. This is what it looks like. Looks like there's no progress. None, then bam. This is what compounding and exponential growth looks like. Now, I know this is going out on a limb here, but if we were to run this forward, I don't know, another 30, 40, 50 years, what are the odds that this trend continues on the back of AI? What are the odds that world GDP could more than 10x in the next couple of decades? Something worth considering, especially if you're one of the skeptics whose first response, for example, when they look at my valuation model and it turns out that I have Tesla exceeding a $10 trillion market cap in about a decade's time. And their first response is, but bro, world GDP is only 100 trillion. Are you fucking dumb, bro? How could Tesla be worth 10% of world GDP, you fucking idiot? Again, I just want to draw everyone's attention to the trend with world GDP over time. Oh, and this may be a little awkward, but bear with me. World GDP, gross domestic product, is effectively the result of labor, currently human labor. If you expand the amount of labor globally, you will expand GDP. Does anyone know any companies developing a humanoid robot whose goal it is to expand the amount of available labor and thereby massively expand the global economy and therefore massively increase GDP? I don't know, maybe a company called Tesla with the humanoid robot. The point I'm making here, there are very few folks out there who really understand what is about to happen. If you thought world GDP over the last 2 millennia was mind-blowing, I mean, look at this shit, it's literally going to the fucking moon. Just wait till you see the next 2 millennia. In fact, just wait till you see the next 2 decades. Things are about to get very interesting. So it seems no one is safe. AI will inevitably, eventually, disrupt everything, everyone, and every job. But not all is lost. During this huge disruption, as you become increasingly less useful and productive, at least you can feel and perform your best. If you optimize your health, well-being, and recovery, you might even be able to survive just that little bit longer before AI inevitably puts you out of a job. My best advice to you, start taking Athletic Greens AG1 every day as I do, and begin feeling and performing your best. If you head to athleticgreens.com/SMR, you get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2, and you can start your daily health habit now. AG1 is an incredibly convenient way to fill in nutritional gaps with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus adaptogens, prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes. I've personally been taking Athletic Greens AG1 every day for almost 2 years, and so far, the AI hasn't put me out of a job, although I am using AI to get my job done. I don't think I've ever mentioned that publicly, but it's true. Here's what some viewers of the channel had to say about AG1. I went through a period of being super strict with my diet, sleep, and exercise. I started AG1 in this period and felt better than ever. The crazy thing for me is that despite being less disciplined and less consistent at times, the brain fog has not returned. Definitely worth a try, people. And I mean, it really is worth a try. There's a 90-day money-back guarantee. And countless testimonials, day after day, they keep flooding in. If you're a regular viewer, you keep seeing the testimonials flooding in. Almost everyone who tries Athletic Greens AG1 says it positively impacts them. They've seen some benefits. 90-day money-back guarantee. So what's the risk? Between you and I know what the risk is. The real risk is if you try Athletic Greens AG1 and you actually do feel better, you'll have no more excuses. And if you have no more excuses, it's going to be awkward if you fail to live up to your potential. Another testimonial. I'm personally on week 3 of my AG1 and feeling great. No need to add anything else. Another, going on week 2 taking AG1 and feel better each day. AG1 is well worth the price. And one more. AG1 is totally amazing. No more ibuprofen, no more leg cramps, much less back pain, feeling better and more energy. This is great and I'm only 2 weeks into AG1. It really works. Thanks, Stephen. You're welcome. So what are you waiting for, guys? Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment and start your daily health habit now. In the best case scenario, you might survive a little bit longer before AI puts you out of a job, and worst case, at least you'll be feeling and performing your best, even if nobody needs you anymore. Even if you're entirely unnecessary anymore. So click the link in the pinned comment or head to athleticgreens.com/SMR. And lastly, if you'd like more content, including a follow-up from yesterday's Morgan Stanley research note, head over to Patreon, well over 300 exclusive videos and still counting fast. You can join with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. Love ya.